Welcome to this daily PPJ devotional. Read Judges 15, Ezekiel 4, and Acts 23 today. This devotional is about Judges 15. Later on, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. "I want to go to my wife in her room," he said, but her father would not let him enter. "I was sure that you thoroughly hated her," said her father, "so I gave her to one of the men who accompanied you. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead." Samson said to them, "This time I will be blameless in doing harm to the Philistines." Then Samson went out and caught 300 foxes, and he took torches, turned the fox's tail to tail, and fastened a torch between each pair of tails. Then he lit the torches and released the foxes into the standing grain of the Philistines, burning up the piles of grain and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. "Who did this?" the Philistines demanded. "It was Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite," they were told, for his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. And Samson told them, "Because you have done this, I will not rest until I have taken vengeance upon you." And he struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter, and then went down and stayed in the cave at the rock of Etam. Then the Philistines went up, camped in Judah, and deployed themselves near the town of Lehi. "Why have you attacked us?" said the men of Judah. The Philistines replied, "We have come to arrest Samson and pay him back for what he has done to us." In response, 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave at the rock of Etam, and they asked Samson, "Do you not realize that the Philistines rule over us? What have you done to us?" "I have done to them what they did to me," he replied. But they said to him, "We have come down to arrest you and hand you over to the Philistines." Samson replied, "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." "No," they answered, "we will not kill you, but we will tie you up securely and hand you over to them." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. When Samson arrived in Lehi, the Philistines came out shouting against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. The ropes on his arms became like burnt flax, and the bonds broke loose from their hands. He found the fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand and took it, and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey I have piled them into heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey I have slain 1,000 men." And when Samson had finished speaking, he cast the jawbone from his hand, and he named that place Ramath-Lehi. And being very thirsty, Samson cried out to the Lord, "You have accomplished this great deliverance through your servant. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" So God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he was revived. That is why he named it En-Hakkore. And it remains in Lehi to this day. Samson judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. This is God's Word. This is the 3rd devotional in a row about Samson. That's because I remain intrigued by him. I'm intrigued by him not because he was a compelling figure. He wasn't. He was an ungodly jerk. No, I remain intrigued by him because God used Samson despite the fact that he was an ungodly jerk. At the end of chapter 14, Samson was mad. He was mad at the Philistines for coercing his newlywed bride into giving up his secret riddle. He was also mad at her, so instead of consummating the marriage, he went back to mom and dad's house. We saw that in Judges 14, verse 19. Now here in Judges 15, Samson has cooled off and remembered what a looker Miss Philistine was. He reconsidered his decision to leave her and decided he really did want to be her husband after all, according to verse 1. But her father had already married her off to one of Samson's groomsmen, so Samson remained single and involuntarily celibate. Instead of accepting that he was dumped fair and square, Samson got mad again. This time, he came up with a creatively foxy way to inflict real economic losses upon the Philistines in verses 3 through 5. In response, the Philistines punished his ex-father-in-law-to-be and his bride, according to verse 6. The violence escalated as Samson retaliated against the Philistines again. Verse 8 says, he attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them because of what they had done to his ex-father-in-law-to-be and his wife-to-be that wasn't. Instead of rallying to their leader, though, the men of Judah handed their leader Samson over to the Philistines when they came looking for him in verses 9 through 14. Once again, according to verse 14, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. And the result of that movement of the Spirit was another major battle in which Samson killed 1,000 Philistines with the only weapon he could find, the jawbone of a dead donkey. We saw that in verse 15. Remember, Samson wasn't supposed to touch anything dead. So God used him once again, despite the fact that he was disobedient to God's word. Now, please realize this. Samson was not built like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone when they were in their prime. Samson looked like an average guy because God was the source of his strength, not the hours he spent in the gym or steroids or some kind of great genetics. Samson was powerful because God empowered him. That's why we keep seeing the phrase, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, just before he lets the Philistines have it. See here in Judges 15, verse 14, but also back in Judges 14:6 and Judges 14:19. It's God's Spirit that comes right before Samson whoops him. Samson's strength, then, was miraculous strength. God's miraculous power protected him from the Philistines attacking him and enabled him to use the crude instrument of the jawbone of a donkey to defeat a mighty army. That takes a miracle, and that's exactly what was going on. Samson's strength was given by God. So was his victory in this chapter with the jawbone of a donkey. But after God gave Samson this miraculous victory, Samson did not fall to his knees to thank God for saving his life and for using him to defeat Israel's enemy. No, Samson responded to his victory in two ways. First, he took credit for the win. In verse 16, he said, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. He gives God no glory, no credit, no thanks. It's all about Samson. Second, Samson responded to his victory by complaining. These battles are making me thirsty, he cried, so to speak, in verse 18. True, he did pray for help and give God credit in verse 18 when he said, You have given your servant this great victory. But instead of humbly asking God to provide for his thirst, Samson's prayer to God was a complaint. Verse 18b says, Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? This is how Samson prayed, with a sarcastic complaint. He was annoyed that God didn't just automatically provide for his thirst. Look how much I did for you, God. Where's the love? Was the attitude that Samson communicated here. But how often do we fail to see how God provides for us? How often do we take his grace for granted? And if we do pray, how often do we complain in our prayers that God hasn't automatically provided something for us? Are you a grateful follower of the Lord? Do you see how God is working in you and through you in your life? Do you take time to thank God for these things that he's doing? Or do you complain about how hard it is to serve the Lord? Take a minute right now to think about something that God has done for you recently. Think about how he provided something you didn't even have the wisdom to ask him for, or how he answered a specific prayer of yours. Then take some time to thank the Lord for his work in your life and through your life. If you found this devotional helpful, go to my website, dailypbj.com/subscribe, and enter your email address to subscribe to receive these every day. It's completely free, and I designed this to help you be in God's Word every day. Please also consider, if you found this devotional helpful, becoming part of my financial support network. Go to dailypbj.com/support for more information about that. Please share this with someone who might be helped to grow in their faith by it, and I'll see you next time. May God bless you. Hope you have a great day today.